Good evening. This is The Rundown, and I'm your host, Sean Clarke. This is the first ever broadcast of The Rundown on AGS, and the first official news broadcast I have ever made. Tonight, I'll be exploring current events in a live news fashion, as I will be figuring out ways to develop the way The Rundown will be structured in future broadcasts. With that being said, tonight we have a multitude of topics to cover, mainly over the European crisis, the 2072 presidential race, President Thaddeus' state visit to the UK, the state of the United States economy, and many other topics. President Thaddeus recently started a state visit to the United Kingdom, where she was set to meet Prime Minister Jack Frost. Here's the footage of the president coming out of 10 Downing Street yesterday before making her way to the press conference and debriefing. Let's take a look. That was President Theresa Thaddeus on her way to the press conference and debriefing yesterday while on a state visit to the United Kingdom. The state visit seems to have been very successful and very productive. Today, Italy had expelled United States embassies from their sovereign territory and is ultimately expelling any American influence within the nation. Italy has since been forcing out its American residents and has been redirecting flights carrying other Americans to other countries. This comes in response to the assassination of the Prime Minister, which was ordered by CIA Director Graham under the Rex administration to the CCC. In response to Italy's actions and the discovery of phone records and words that have been exchanged by officials from the United States government, Germany has also ordered the expulsion of American embassies and ambassadors from their sovereign territory in retaliation to the actions taken by the U.S. government. Premier Sabrina Liebenecht condemned the United States' actions and has said the lies of the American presidents are not to be underestimated anymore. They took the one person who wanted peace for their own greedy goals. This has closed many doors in the relations between the United States and European nations that have fallen under communist rule. France has opened up to diplomatic resolutions and has invited President Thaddeus to France to hopefully solve any complications. In response to the actions of the communist socialist communities in Europe, Ukraine has closed several European embassies from other nations like Germany, Italy, Spain, Turkey, and more. The Ukrainian government has also signed mutual defense pacts with the Romanian and Polish governments, which is clearly a move made in preparation for military conflict. The government of the United Kingdom has come out in support of the United States. This has come after meetings with President Thaddeus, Prime Minister Jack Frost, and Secretary of State Owen Pulisic. Germany has since made a final statement implying that war is imminent between communist forces in Europe and the United States. The premier has stated, "We know the United States has wanted a war. They refuse to call off their allies from our borders. They refuse to respect our elections and accused us of human rights violations with no evidence or validity." She also added, "The United States even now contacts allies and prepares their military. They should know we are just as prepared." This statement was made by the premier in front of a modern GR-1 armored tank, causing the public to believe that a threat of war with the communist forces in Europe are dangerous at this point. It has also been brought to our attention that construction has been initiated on two vital interstate highways, I-95 and I-80, under the lead of former Secretary of Transportation Tyrone Boyles. The interstates had suffered extensive use ever since their constructions in 1956. This is a very important step in keeping up with the infrastructure of the United States, and this is an action that has been generally approved by the public of the United States. Recently, we have seen the declining value of the Dow Jones Industrial Average from around 76,000 points to about 66,000 points, a 10,000 point decrease in value. It has been reported that the New York Stock Exchange, in consequence to this value decrease, has lost about $3 trillion in the first month. The public opinion seems to confirm an economic recession for the United States economy, which President Thaddeus has responded to while on a state visit to the United Kingdom. She said she is deeply appalled by this recent event and that she is willing to get to action as soon as possible to avert another economic depression. The president has also responded to this economic crisis by forming her administration's first executive council on economic advisors. More on this story as the situation occurs. In other news, South Africa has elected a new president, Andy Muwasi. ANC candidate for president has been elected president of South Africa by a margin of 2.86%. This was a close presidential election, and the opponent, President Arthur Ramoon, has reportedly called President-elect Muwasi to concede the election to him. Now, to begin with, I did plan on having Senator Jack Florence, independent candidate for presidency of the United States, on as a guest tonight, but unfortunately he has not responded to the direct messages that I have sent him, which means that he will not be joining us tonight unless stated otherwise. So I will be talking about a lot of other things, including the presidential election 2072, which I think at this point Richardson is the front runner for and the popular candidate for. This is not an endorsement, but it is a reporting of the facts. Now I have a few opinions on this whole entire communist, socialist, fascist fiasco in Europe, and it's not a very good opinion. Well, in the sense that it goes against pretty much everything that's going on in Europe at this moment. I think that Germany has been saying a lot, and they've been saying things without a filter that honestly, if they want to avoid war, which is clear that they don't, they should have that. This just in, Senator Florence will not be joining us tonight as a guest, as he has responded with a message on Instagram saying that he will not be able to be featured. This will be a relatively short broadcast. I think at this point it's been about 10 minutes. And it's been 11 minutes since the live stream officially started. I've reported pretty much everything that I've got lined up, and that's been happening in today's current events in the last week. Unfortunately, we do not have any guest appearances tonight on our first broadcast of the rundown, but I do expect that to change in the future. And at this point, I'm going off of the script, which I did write. I was prepared completely for this broadcast of the rundown, and you will expect me to be more prepared next week, because this tonight, the reason that the rundown started so late was because I had to attend an RCI class, which lasted longer than I thought it would. I thought I would be back by around 8 o'clock, and then I could come home and get this broadcast started, which unfortunately seems to not be the case. It doesn't seem like anyone else has been watching very at all, but that is okay, because this will be published later on the official AGS MSNBC news channel on YouTube. I will be starting another segment soon as well, which will be the live news, because this was prepared as a live news sort of segment for tonight, because I hadn't done anything like it before, and this is supposed to be sort of an opinion broadcast in a way, where I would argue in a way that, or against, or for some of the things that's happening in the current events now. But yeah, I will be starting another segment called AGS MSB Live News Now with Sean Clarke, and possibly other reporters in the future, because I have been expanding MSNBC, and I expect it to reach a good amount of viewers and employees by the end of the, let's say, next 2 months. I'll be working extensively to make sure that MSNBC will be growing and that we will be improving as a news station in AGS. And that is pretty much it. Since I have not gotten any questions in the live chat at all so far, which is okay. This is the first broadcast of this segment, and I didn't really expect a lot of viewers anyway, to be honest. Because normally people will watch Instagram live streams because it's convenient. It is not as convenient to go and have to go into one of two accounts and click the link and then wait a minute for the page to load and then get onto the live stream, which I totally understand. But yeah, this has been an official broadcast. Trying to make it as interesting as I can, because I'm practically improvising the rest of this broadcast. But nobody is watching at the moment or asking any questions. So, at this moment, I will be ending this broadcast of the rundown. So with that being said, this was the rundown, and I'm your host, Sean Clarke. This will be the end of this broadcast. See you next Tuesday.